Hello and welcome to coverage of the Magic Online Community Cup. We are in the Sunday post-tournament haze here, and we're doing a pre-release for Khans of Tarkir. Scott MacHallum, Mr. Scotty Mac. Modern is his favorite format. A couple people said that. He's a streamer, and he's a founding member of the A-Team podcast as well. He's playing against Frank Lepore. He likes to play a mix of everything. He's an editor, writer, community manager for TCG Player, and he makes regular text and video content as well. So what we have here, Matt Tabak,
yes,
is we have Frank Lepore ostensibly on Jeskai,
right,
and we have Mr. Scotty Mac on everything. You ready for this? He has opened up a pool that he feels has allowed him to play a full 5-color build, I believe, and he's gone for all of it. BDM, do you have any insights?
Yeah, Brian pointed out to us one key card that might really make this go.
It's sort of like that was like the second tumbler to fall. The first card was actually Utter End. He's like, if you're going to give me Utter End in my Teamer build, I'm going to find a way to play this card.
I need to know what that does.
2 white black to cast. It's an instant. Exile target non-land permanent.
Oh, that one.
So he's like, this is the best removal spell in the format. I want to play it. Then he went and saw Trail of Mystery, which lets him, for green and 1, whenever he plays a morph, find a basic land from his library and put it into his hand.
Look at that opener from Scotty Mac. He's had the mulligan, but he's got fixer, fixer, fixer on his lands here.
Frank Lepore with the classic swamp in the Jeskai opening.
All right, so we know now that Frank has gone a little deeper, at least, than just the Jeskai. So this could get interesting here.
Yeah, this is kind of an important note as people are getting ready to go to their pre-releases. You're going to choose a clan, and you're going to get a booster with cards, you know, slanted towards that clan. But it doesn't limit you, right? There's a lot of good fixing. We learned our lessons from Shards of Alara. Playing 4 and 5 colors is totally feasible, and you know, don't be afraid.
All right, so here's a Jeskai student. It has all the information on it right there. One white for a 1/3 with prowess. So.
But you could zoom in. You did zoom in. That art.
I was requested to do so.
That art is amazing.
The art is sweet.
Let's face it.
Ooh, an Ice Feather Aven up there for Scott MacHallum. I guess I should get used to seeing sweet cards in his deck because he's playing all of them.
There's no excuse for a card to not be sweet in his deck.
Right.
Show us the Tri-Land for a minute, Marshall. Just talk about these. These are going to be like something you're going to really want to keep an eye out for. We saw this, you know, Jungle Shrine was, the classic from, Shards of Alara.
Right.
But, we got the whole set now. It comes to play tapped, and it gives you any of 3 colors of mana in a clan.
Yeah, these are going to be very important. I know I'm curious as a limited junkie where on the pick order they end up being.
Yeah.
In Shards of Alara, the original Shard, 3-color or clan type deck block like this, excuse me. You would pick them pretty highly, maybe not first pick them, but they went higher and higher and higher. 3rd pick, 4th pick was not unheard of.
They're uncommon.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess are you calling the gain a life cycle the refuge cycle?
I mean, that's what we call them. I don't know what.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking Matt so I could get some official sanction on calling these refuges.
Oh, if I'm in charge of like official terminology, we've got issues. Refuge cycle is awesome. Let's run with that.
Harkening back to the refuges from Zendikar.
Right.
Yeah, and these are common.
Yeah, and these are common, and as you can see, they help fix your mana for the penalty of coming in and play tap, but you gain a life.
Right.
It adds up.
It's not nothing.
And against some of the more beatdowny clans, it can be a big deal.
Sure.
Right? You get into these real race situations.
All right, so we have a couple of morphs and a Jeskai student on the battlefield here.
Now, when Adam was in the booth for the first 2 quarterfinals, you guys talked about the 5 mana principle with morph on morph combat.
We did, yes.
Okay. That's a really important feature of limited.
So, Ice Feather Aven down.
Unless they just
down low.
Ugh. That is a tragedy right there. Ice Feather Haven hitting the bin, yeah.
Bring what is it called? Bring low. That's going to be one of the
You'll see a lot of bring.
There's going to be a premium.
It costs 4 mana, so you can't get too excited.
But when
you're
your
not playing it.
When you get a little bit of a rebate because your opponent sunk mana into their Outlast creature.
Oh yeah.
And you get to do 5.
I appreciate that.
Nasty.
Oh, well, all right.
Okay. So Frank Lepore looking to be in good shape as Mr. Scotty Mac has yet another tap land here, but he's fallen a bit behind. He's at 17, could be taking 3 here. And what is Frank up to? Frank decides not to send in with this morph. He's playing around that kill shot card, or maybe it was just a misclick. These are my two theories.
Right, he's willing to lose the 1/3, but this is a pretty good morph, and
That's what
I don't want to lose it.
What do I want to do?
The look on his face is not telling me which one is true, but I have my suspicions.
All right.
So a full grip
It's probably best if you did nothing too, because you're
for
like
Scotty.
I don't know how it works.
Can
It's a real
not
weird
cast
3D
2 of the
game.
cards in his hand once that land untaps. Double red and double blue are both eluding him.
Yeah, it looks like he had no regard whatsoever for converted mana cost, colors, anything.
Sure, buddy.
He just jammed all the best cards in his deck.
Yeah.
Double blue, double red.
I
This
mean,
thing is the
There's only
deepest.
so many ways to manage it.
And so you saw
Yeah.
he was looking at the blue bounce spell as that force away, and you know kept thinking about doing it, but I think he wants Frank to commit some mana to that morph before.
There's lots of good value to be had there.
And will Frank take the bait?
Yep.
Now, if this is a Ponyback Express, nope.
It's the Weapon
That's
Master.
real good.
So hopefully he'll target his other creature. Oh, but Scotty's going to do this
that's
with the ability on the stack, so now he knows to target the other thing.
Big though.
I
Right?
think the Weapon
Yeah,
Master
actually,
targets.
It
another?
only targets another?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
so. It's
Oh,
another.
interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so he just wanted the tempo advantage then.
Right.
It's got some prowess.
But it does get a nice chunk of damage in for Frank Lepore, so he at least gets to keep ahead on that particular race.
Now, we didn't really see the situation come up just now, but since I have a captive
what if he
audience, I
turns
will
off
take
the
this
back
opportunity to remind everybody when they're at their pre-releases next week.
Oh, really?
If you have a face-down creature
That's
and it
pretty
leaves the battlefield, like goes back to your hand, don't forget to show it to your opponent. That's one of
You
those-
must do that.
Yeah, anytime it leaves the battlefield or when the game ends, show those face-down creatures. Basically, you have to prove that when you
So I
cast it,
think
it was a
this
legal
is-
play.
this is an
That's sort of a
interesting
security
situation,
feature
but
of
I
Morph.
feel like
Just so
So-
people don't cast like an island
Yeah.
or something.
Morph was a rules.
otherwise you get
You know, was a rules quagmire when it was first introduced,
Absolutely.
right? And like,
Yeah,
and that was the solution.
Right, and there was definitely a lot of thought, into bringing it back. Where
Right.
we know that this is a little bit of
guy back.
added complexity for players. They're not used to. At the end of the game, they're used to just scooping.
You
This
know
is
what? And
another thing that
we're watching Magic Online right now, but another little just piece of advice
Uh-huh.
that I think Marshall and I could offer from our tournament experience playing with morphs. When you attack with your morph, be really people have a tendency to pick their cards up and put them at a slight angle as they turn them sideways.
Oh yeah, interesting.
And so you can give away a lot of information about your morphs when you do that. I know there's a bunch of people who are like, no, don't tell them that. But really, try to get in the habit of just keeping your cards flat on the table when you're tapping them to attack. Don't get all dramatic and stage presency.
That
Very
is
good
great
advice.
advice, BDM. And
No flair.
I've had Rashad give me the head shake when I've attacked him with a morph before, and just like, you haven't played with these enough.
What's the card
Pick it
that
up.
Frank
Yeah,
Lepore just
I
played?
already showed him, but it's Bellowing Saddle Brood. This card just seems like a house to me. What a great card.
Big body.
4, 5, and sometimes you
that.
lose 4 life, but a lot of times you don't anyway.
You made that.
Ooh.
Burn away and your graveyard, please.
Frank Lepore just putting it to Scotty Mack, who just can't seem to keep anything on the table, but
And then prowess, your student
yeah.
gets a +1 for the turn.
Yeah, so I'm going to get in for a couple of damage, though. I have to say that Frank is not doing a great job of putting out finishers here. He's got to be worried that Jeskai student's not going to be able to tow the full 7 damage on its own here, as Scotty Mack now has all the colors available and 5 mana and a lot of choices here that he can make. I think he's just going to play the Armament Core there, but he's got other choices as well.
Make it a 6/6.
Oh, he can't? Oh, no, he can. Yeah, green-black. There you go.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of control-Zing in this format as
Yes, there
you try to
will.
get your mana right.
All right, so here's Armament Core.
Yeah.
And
well,
yeah, he's going to
That's
I
fairly
still
large.
make it a 6/6. Now, so this is the issue here. The Jeskai student
I don't. Feel free to keep
Yeah, that's a
just
lot of
is
spells.
going to be outclassed for the rest of this game here. So
That is a lot of spells you
Yeah.
need to cast.
Yeah, Frank's going to have to come up with another angle of attack here, maybe a burn spell
Well, he
situation.
does have a flyer that he can play as the Delve flyer there. The Scavenger, Sultai
The
Scavenger. I
Sultai
believe.
Scavenger. And he has a mana to play it too. In fact, he can play both of these cards here if he wants.
Of course, my favorite way to trigger prowess, not going to come up right now apparently, but is the pre-combat planeswalker.
Oh,
Oh, that is
Definitely the way to
I
go.
like your style, Matt. Like that's the premium way.
Yeah.
to
Came up in
trigger
playtesting a few times.
Yeah, some people run better than others.
Yeah.
finds a flyer and a sometimes flyer.
Yeah, so Leaping Master can gain flying, and this one just has it. So I like that. No, Frank has solved that problem that he had about getting in the finishing blow here, and he's put up a substantial board state on that turn. So back to you, Scotty Mack. Now it's up to you to find something to combat what Frank has shown you here. And he's going to play a morph.
I know that Jeremy Jarvis, our art director, who does really
So
amazing
ominous.
work, you can see it,
I'm like,
you know,
I have no
in each
idea
set,
what that is.
really does not like conditional flying. It's one of his least
He
favorite
doesn't like
things.
conditional flying.
Yeah, that's sometimes hard to illustrate.
Hard to illustrate, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
This one's nice, though.
But I think it works really well there on Leaping Master.
I think it does, too.
That one is nice. Really, the Jeskai art, I love it.
Yeah.
And
Leaping-
Frank's like, I'm just going to take you to 2 here.
Yeah.
You got something?
We have a morph.
Scott says, yeah, I got something.
Oh.
What?
Scott
Wait, but that's if it's your turn.
may have not.
I don't know that he read this all the way.
Oh, no.
So I think Scott might have thought we were Ray of Commanding here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the it's your turn, the if it's your turn
If it-
clause
That-
on that one is kind of to
Serious.
prevent
I just mean, like,
blowouts.
not really.
That would
this
be
would
the
have been.
biggest blowout.
Yeah,
in-
that of course would have been a little too good. It's an offensive card, really. It's not
Yeah.
meant to be Ray of Command.
All right, fine.
But you know,
And Scotty's not happy
That
about it,
card's
but he
like
says,
only half
he
the
taps the
color.
chest and says, I got to take one here. That's pretty rough, but I mean,
Yeah.
we have to keep in mind here, guys, that this set is
Oh, look at
literally
this.
2 days old.
yeah, it's
Look
hours
at
old.
this. Look at this parlay. Mardu Warshrieker, get 3 mana because
And
of
you play
raid,
an
and play a
05,
Bloodfire Mentor.
Yeah. So a nice showing there from Frank Lepore, who was able to use the ability to cast his spells
Yes.
and leverage that against Scott, who, while he did end up getting there on mana, it took him a while, and his start was very slow. And I think that we can probably expect to see that repeatedly from Scotty Mack here. He's got to be concerned that Frank has a fairly, I mean, I wouldn't call it a super aggressive deck. Like, we're not talking about a Mardu beatdown here, but at the same time, his deck can apply pressure.
Yeah, it might be fast enough. And it's really interesting about this format, the speed of the clans against one another can vary wildly, you know, depending
Yeah.
on what card you open. And
Theories are flying about that.
Yeah.
My current theory is that the Mardu clan is the check and balance on me putting on my scuba mask and going as deep as possible,
Right.
jumping off of the
I
treasure
think
cruise.
Jeskai might also be.
Jeskai looks like it's
Yeah,
assertive
Jes-
and tempo.
Yeah.
Right, where you take a turn off to outlast, or you play your tap land, and you're like, okay, but once I get this 4/4, I'm good to go, and they're like, bounce it, hit
Yeah,
you 7.
yeah, and the thing is, you can be a lot of weird cards in Jeskai. Like, you wouldn't think that that's a clan that's going to use Delve really well, but actually they can, because there's so many cards that they could cycle through that just have, you know, their deck has so much velocity that they're able to like
Bounce
get
spells,
4 and 5
yeah.
cards into their graveyard and use a bounce spell very early
Yeah.
or very cheaply, and really be able to just continue to the tempo. So
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I was thinking of.
Set Adrift, is that the blue? Is it Set Adrift?
Set Adrift,
The- on
the
top of the
Dell,
library
or
one?
Yeah.
the
That
Dell.
card is
That's nasty.
a
yeah.
beating, and if you can cast that for 1 or 2 mana and just sneak that in there.
Yeah, I was thinking when we were looking at it before that cantrips, cheap cantrip cards that draw you a card when you cast them regularly. That's why I was really excited to see Crippling Chill back in this set, because that fills
Crippling
up your
Chill is
yard
great,
and
yeah.
keeps them off balance in a major way, while not sacrificing card advantage for yourself. So A lot of different angles to hit these clans from there. This is going to be a crazy set to try to decipher, but...
I said before, I think Disdainful Stroke is also...
What is that one again?
Disdainful Stroke is 1U, counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or greater.
Yeah.
So like against the decks that are looking to go deep and do stuff, like you come out with a couple of like little crappy, beaters, and you're just doing stuff, and then you're just like, counter your big board stabilizer.
Yeah, I read somewhere that was counter target spell you care about.
You couldn't get them to template it that way? It's your job.
Yeah.
That might have been the playtest version. I'm not sure.
You have to have like a debate about, you didn't really care. You're like, yeah, you're right. It resolves.
If I'm Scotty Mac, I might just mulligan to Trail of Mystery.
No way, man. You're crazy, although I do believe you. All right, so both players have kept their openers. Now the question here is, does Scotty Mac have the mana? Yes. And the other question is, does Frank have the pressure? And I don't know yet. He's got 2 4-drops, 3 4-drops, a 5-drop, and a 2. So the answer is no. He does not have the pressure. So I like Scotty Mac's chances here by going 3 dual lands in a row and then just start resolving super powerful stuff. That seems like a nice plan.
I am liking the double Smite the Monstrous, though.
That could definitely keep things in check, but I really feel like Frank needs to have some pressure here, right? Like, in order for him to beat Scotty's deck, Scotty has to have a more powerful deck just in the abstract, right?
Yeah, it did seem like Scotty has the better long game.
How do you feel about this? So this is going to be a sequence that's going to come up a lot, Marshall. Third turn, you can play a land or play a refuge. But if you play the land, a regular land, you can play the morph. And then next turn, it's
that's going to come up all the time.
Sequencing your morph versus your 4-drop.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen more often is that you get your tap land down on turn 1 or 2, and you're not.
Well,
quite
that
as
also
deep
happened
here.
for Scotty Mac.
Sultai Flare, whenever. Wow, that's a blocker. And it is no longer a blocker. So Singing Bell Strike, which look at the artwork on that. God, that's beautiful. 1 and a blue taps it down. And they have to come up with 6 mana just to untap the thing.
Yeah, they can untap it eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
You know that you're going to have that achievement unlocked at some point, Marshall. You're going to play that on your own creature to untap it.
Give it
and give
vigilance.
it like pseudo-vigilance.
I'd call that unlikely, but absolutely possible.
It's
I'll
perhaps,
let you
Unlikely,
know.
but very likely.
it's perhaps not the greatest combo with Outlast, but it could get there.
There you go. All right, so this morph is hitting the red zone here up against another morph from Scotty Mac.
Frank needs land right now.
Yes, he does. 7 cards in your hand, none of them land.
Is this an 18-land format, guys?
It's starting to feel like it, especially if we play those banners.
Randy's in my ear saying 19.
Yeah, what are you figuring out?
I did hear you guys talking about morphs as kind of a mana fixing like mechanic, especially in a wedge world.
And you can see that here, 3 morphs on the battlefield, 2 of them for Frank Lepore,
Right.
who wouldn't be able to cast those otherwise.
It does give him some board presence, which he needs.
So let's see if Scotty can leverage the fact that Frank Lepore has missed some land drops, does not have any pressure on him. Can Scotty just overpower Frank here?
Bold move,
There may be a Master of the Way for 7 in Frank Lepore's future. 3 BU for, 3 UR for draw a card. Master of the Way deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Oh, Master of the Way, right. That's a sorcery, correct?
It is a
yeah,
sorcery.
Master of the Way is a sorcery, yeah.
Yeah, I see it down there. That's for Frank.
I mean, he's still, 2
doesn't have
lands,
red mana.
one of which is red
Yeah.
away.
He draws Arc Lightning here, which unfortunately doesn't look great as, welcome to Teamer. That's a 5/5 trample looking to close this game out as quickly as possible. Scott, look at Scott's mana. That is incredible.
Yeah, I saw when he opened his seal deck, he just looked at his non-basic land pile and was just, you could see the gleam in his eye.
Yeah.
He had a plan.
I was chatting with him at breakfast, and he said, "Do you think you can go 5 colors in this format?" I said, "Yeah, go for it."
Absolutely.
So this is your fault.
Well, I mean, I knew development was conscious of how mana fixing worked out the last time we were in a 3-color world in Alara. So really not getting to cast your spells is not a lot of fun, as Frank might be experiencing right now.
Frank agrees with you.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that there is, at least enough out there that you can reliably cast your spells.
All right, and he has unmorphed Mistfire Weaver, which is a 3/1 flying, and when it's turned face up, target creature you control gets hexproof. He didn't actually have to use the hexproof part, but he wants to be able to have that ability, that creature up, so that he can trade it for Summit Prowler, which is a 4/3 with no abilities. All right, so he's found a land, but it enters the battlefield tapped, and that means that those two Smite the Monstrous are going to have to just stay stuck in his hand for another turn. He wants to play those
there's
so
Icy
bad.
Blast.
Oh, no.
But only Icy Blast for one.
Interesting.
And it was the morph.
Frank is still looking for red mana also, although that fourth mana is key with those two smites.
Yeah, if he can get Smite going, he can just pick off the two best creatures that Scotty Mac has right now. Another thing that Scotty has to remember is that he can unlock the power of his Sultai Flare to get in for an attack if he feels is needed.
Yeah, he's getting pretty close there.
Yeah, all right. So
All right,
what is
now
he
we're
doing?
going to see the Instigator
Now we're in business.
used correctly.
Here's what the Instigator should do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's going to seal the deal and even things up at one game
MacHallum?
apiece here.
Yeah, Frank was
He's like, oh, I
teetering on
like
the
that
edge of
card so much more
stabilizing.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Scotty Mac's a lot happier with turning that face up on his own turn as opposed to turning his opponent's combat
Yeah.
like he did last game.
Yeah. Boy, it would be so good. You
Yep.
could rave
I mean, it
for
is a
that.
rare, like
Well-
it's not unheard of. Be
I
insane.
think for that cost, that might be a little too aggressive.
Only 2 in a red. Yeah, you might be right.
One of the things I really like about the set, especially as rules manager, is we talked a little bit about the complexity of Morph, and it has some operations going on. But really, the rest of the set, if you look at all the keywords and mechanics from a rules point of view, it's pretty simple, right? It's pretty
It really is.
straightforward, but it's deep.
Yeah,
Like-
you know what's funny? So we actually, for the podcast I do, we do a set before the pre-release that goes over all the mechanics and rules so that
Yes.
players have an idea of what's going on before they go in.
Featuring Judge Joe Bono.
Judge Joe Bono,
I listen
right.
to that show all the time.
Awesome. And so we bring him on, and it was pretty funny
one
because on this show, we had to
dramatic
cover all 5 of the mechanics for the clan. We burned through those in about 45 minutes, and they spent about an hour,
one
hour and a half talking
dramatically
about Morph. you
Yeah.
know. So-
Outlast, straightforward,
Right.
activated ability, prowess, straightforward triggered ability, Delve is coming back. It's all pretty straightforward.
But I thought that was really cool because there's definitely a risk, and I mean I'm curious how you have to balance this, as it probably does fall on your desk eventually. Of what if you just overwhelmed your player base with so much complexity and nonsense that it just went over their head and they didn't want to play anymore?
Well, there was Time Spiral, which had 72 keywords in it. I'm making that number up, but it's not far from the truth.
Yeah.
You definitely can get too much, right? So we want, basically we rely a little bit on flavor here, we rely a little bit on previous knowledge, but we want things to be, approachable and easy for you to pick up. We want the complexity to come into like card decisions and play. Like we want people to understand their cards, obviously. But like what's interesting, like I point out last a lot as a mechanic that rules-wise is very simple, but actually in game is interesting, right? Provides lots of interesting decisions on what to do, and that's really the sweet spot
That's where you want to
of
be.
what
with
we're
it.
aiming for. Yeah.
Now, how do you take yourself? So you've been playing Magic and been around Magic for years and years. You are at the deepest level of the rules. How do you put
Yeah.
yourself in a player's seat who's relatively new to the game, where, for example, Morph is going to be something that would be like, whoa, what is this?
My main tool for doing this is going out and talking to people.
Like maybe hit up an F&M or
Yeah,
a local store.
go to local tournaments. Of course, now most of R&D is all over social media, so I have a Twitter and a Tumblr where I answer questions, and I kind of see the kinds of things. I pay attention to the judges and the judge forums and rules Q&A. So I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what is confusing people and what people like and don't like.
All right, so we have game 3 underway here.
Double Avon in Scott MacHallum's hand.
Everybody has double Avon.
You
Aaron
are so-
Campbell also
you
had
are
double
so
Avon.
jealous.
I'm just salty about it because I haven't.
Your Sultai?
I want to play that. I'm not salty about
Oh.
it. No.
When you lose
Rashad's
with that
loving
clan, you will
this.
be the Salt Eye.
Yeah, I will. All right, so force away to buy Scott MacHallum some time, and he is cackling. He loves that.
Double Pine Walker too. Pretty interesting morph. whenever
I was
Pine
like,
Walker or
as
another
close to
creature
a
you control is
rematch
turned
as I
face up,
possibly
untap that creature.
So it's like,
You get to, when you get to start unmorphing those fatties, like the Pine Walker, which is a 5/5, you get a pseudo vigilance for the turn you unmorph them.
Surprise blocking is no small thing either.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can't even handle it.
Right.
All right, here's a.
Oh, you didn't block my guy when I attacked his morph?
Here's a
Fine,
just-
take 2.
Right.
Here's a Jeskai Wind Scout. Flying prowess. I like the idea of this. This thing looks like it could deal. I mean, essentially, it could be a 3-power flyer for some number of turns.
Why is it wearing a sweater vest?
What is it wearing? Oh, it is.
It's a little chilly.
It's a nice cardigan.
On Tarkir, especially those higher altitudes.
Yeah,
It gets cold.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting decision. Do you block? No, you do not. And what's the follow-up play here for Scotty Mac?
Just another Aven.
He plays nothing. So it looks like he wants to actually use the Aven here to turn it face up.
Oh, I see an ascendancy.
I accept your 2.
A Jeskai Ascendancy.
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
We'll keep our eye on that. Looks like Frank's not going to play that one yet. Dead Drop looks like it's about 20 miles away from being cast. That may have been ambitious in the Jeskai deck.
Right now.
But
He's so
see if you
angry.
can move things forward. Here's that Mardu Warshrieker. This one's going to add that mana.
I know Frank's
And-
deck
Ooh,
has
that's
a lot of
hard.
movement.
What does that do?
This is sweet. He even gets to play the Ascendancy this turn.
All right.
Wow, that
When you
Warshrieker is
cast a
getting
spell, creatures you control get 1/1,
more. I've seen it twice
untap
now, and both times I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a huge
Play a morph.
card for you.
That's what happened last time. This time,
I'm not even
get
like
the mana needed
trying
to play
downplay
Jeskai
that. That's a
Ascendancy as
big
well.
fucking
Right.
card.
Just sort of ignoring
It's
the,
really
the,
good.
the black mana it gives him. And
All right. All right.
It makes every non-creature.
I'm blanking on the 2/2 creature that
What do I do here?
refunded.
what does Jeskai Ascendancy do?
That's the one.
Let's take a look.
Jeskai Ascendancy has 2 abilities that are kind of like pseudo prowess. You get bonuses for casting non-creature spells.
And they untap. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card.
So, NBD.
Not bad. All right, so Scotty Mac's going to battle with his Ice Feather Aven. And what's the follow-up now? He's got 5 mana.
He's just going to play a 5/5.
Just a 5/5. Whenever I flip morphs, they untap.
All right. Drawing common? Yeah.
Whenever Pine Walker or another creature you control is turn it face up and tap it. Yeah, BDM, I like that creature.
Yeah. There's a lot of play in that card.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, you could overlook that pretty easily and say, oh yeah, 5/5 for 5, whatever.
Right.
But there's a lot going on.
Right. And I like how it harkens back to morph. It can destroy you whether you block or don't block.
So Leaping Master here for Frank. And he's replayed his Jeskai Wind Scout as well. And Scotty goes into the tank.
Isn't this Ice Feather Aven attack?
It feels like he has a pretty nice attack with the Pine Walker there. Pre-combat morph, that's going to signal something to Frank.
And right, he can't even bluff that it's an off-color morph because there is no such a thing in
Right.
Scott's
It could be
deck.
anything.
Reasonable.
Uh-oh, is he going to get him here? No, Jeskai Student. That's not going to do a whole lot. It's also not a non-creature spell. And
And it's
looks
also
like-
not black mana.
Right, so Frank is being punished a bit for his splash. He's got no black mana. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 6 mana and nothing in his yard for the dead drop. But he can cast the throttle if he does find his black mana source here. So it's not all is lost. feel like Scotty's pulled ahead pretty significantly here, though.
Is that
Yeah, Frank really needs to find something. If he can get that ascendancy working, where he starts looting and feeding his graveyard into dead drop, really just needs a swamp.
Yeah, by the way, that's an act of treason lurking in Scotty's hand there.
Yeah, that could end the game quite quickly. And here we go. Ice Feather Avon's going to get flipped face up, and it looks like it's going to bounce the flyer, giving Scotty Mac a good attack on the ground and good attack in the air here. And this could be really tough for Frank to recover from. And Scott just has 4 spells in hand, a bunch of good ones. Yeah, this is going to get ugly. Scotty's kind of mapping out his path to victory here. He could go for it right now and just try to put Frank Lepore down so much that he just can't recover. Or he could just keep developing his board, play another 5/5.
Don't know if I like that at all.
What happens if he takes active treasons, the
3 cards in hand.
War
1, 2,
Shrieker,
1
and
flyer.
just attacks with everybody?
If he takes the War Shrieker, puts him in a great spot. Basically,
Right. There's no good block on the Pine Walker that way.
Yeah, it's just chump blocks.
You know,
Frank
you
Lepore
maybe you
falls to
trade the
nearly
Leaping
dead.
Master for an Avon, but that's fine.
Yep. He can also just play the second Pine Walker. And he's got good attacks no matter what.
Right.
He can just attack with everything here and be in a fine position
right.
as well. Like he could
Take
the best,
eat 2 cards with the Pine Walker.
yeah, make another one and
Yeah.
just run him over.
Right. Yeah, actually, that's great. He eats 2 cards with the Pine Walker and gets in for 4 damage.
I think that Scott might be like, does the Jeskai Ascendancy play into it here? Like, let's say that Frank were to play a non-creature spell at this point. Like,
Here
what
we
would
go.
that
He's
mean?
going to take the War Shrieker.
I'm not surprised.
Right,
Scotty Mac's
and
aggressive.
then he gets to play the Pine Walker face down
Oh,
for his
yeah,
combat.
totally.
And just set himself up for a great spot
This
next
is
turn.
just a sweet turn for Scotty Mac. Hits the red zone. And
Yeah.
give this thing flying so that it can at least trade with an Avon 5. And he's going to have to chump block and take
yeah,
5
this is
damage
great.
here. And Frank Lepore is looking in terrible position as Scotty's hit his mana and has some really powerful spells.
That was a great road. How good is Ice Feather Avon, man? The tempo there.
You're killing me here, Tayback.
That's-
All
oh.
I want to do is play that card.
I
Can you go
know.
get me one from upstairs? You have a big pile of them by your desk or something?
I can go into the vault, see what we can do.
Great. Just move aside all the Black Lotuses and stuff and get
Yeah,
to the,
they're always getting in the way.
Is that a Zergo Helm Smasher?
He is Zergo.
and he costs black mana.
Yeah, he is black mana, unfortunately.
I'm just excited to see Zergo.
No, I am too. That's pretty cool.
I don't know whether that was actually correct. I think I just.
Interesting.
I see why Frank splashed.
So
Removal, big Zergs.
Scotty decided to play the Scaldkin there. What else does he have? He's just going to go.
Oh, he's just gonna kill the flyer.
He's just going to use it as removal
Right,
right
he's just
now.
gonna use it. Wait, yes, no.
He can do it.
He can also play a morph and set up for
Here's
next turn. No,
Scaldkin
there
if
we
you
go.
haven't seen it yet. Sacrifice it
Block
to do
there,
2
you block
damage to a
there,
creature or
2.
player. Pay 2 in a red.
The 7 mana.
In a pinch, it's the
7
7 mana
shock.
shock. Yeah.
Yeah,
That will take out a blocker
yeah. There
here.
you go.
But, 2/2 flyer that can beat while it waits to shock something.
And he has to block the Pine Walker.
Chump block.
Oh, send in the morph too.
Oh, you got to send in the morph. Because this actually forces a block here. Oh, don't let him get there, Scotty. That's not going to do it.
I don't think that's going to do
That'll
it.
tap down the 5/5. It won't actually buy him the turn he needs, though, because the morph is going to turn into 5/5 as well.
So draw a card, discard a card. Look for a swamp.
Yep,
Yeah, if he hit a swamp there, he still couldn't quite cast
He lands.
drop down.
5 color victory.
So 5 color advances.
5 over 4.
Interesting. It looks like 5 is slightly more than 4. Yeah. Now, I mean, Scotty Mac, he had a ton of fixing in that deck.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, did you see all of those lands? So this sets us up for our semifinals. Bjorn Andreasen beat Paul Cheon Tom Ross got by Aaron Campbell with Sultai. So Mardu versus Sultai in our first semifinal. On the other side, we have Sean Plott versus Mariah Pagliacco. Sean emerged victorious with from the Obzon mirror there. Scotty Mack, as we just saw, he picked Teamer for his